All right, well, we'll move on to Team Canada now, boys, and let's have some fun with this one. I think everything's good here in terms of numbers and everything for me. I shouldn't get attacked for this roster, hopefully, so we should be good.
Oh, you're done.
Anyway, Team Canada projected roster for the Four Nations face-off next year. Case, take it away once again.
This was way harder to make this team. I think that this was the hardest one for me to make, especially on forward, actually on defense too. I just had a hard time because the depth of like top end players is so much bigger than all the other nations. And I think it was easier to pick USA because there's felt like 12 really good forwards, like insanely good forwards. And then there's a few extras there and it drops off. But then there's like 24 really good Canadians. I don't know if I'm explaining that well, but either way, I hemmed and hawed about this a long time. I'm still not set on the lines, but this is what I came to. I have Hyman, McDavid, McKinnon, Marchand, Crosby, Bedard, Reinhart, Point, Stone, Stamkos, Barzal, Marner, and the extra is Robert Thomas. Defense, Devin Taves, Makar, Theodore, Pietrangelo, Morrissey, Dobson, and the extra is Doughty. And then goalies are Hill, Jari, Binnington. Special note here, there's 4 forwards that are left-handed.
Oh,
insane. I have the bottom 6 are all right-handed. It was hard to do with this Canadian team. Quickly before we get into yours, a very quick note on a guy who is going to be on this team and maybe will slot in playing because of his name is Drew Doughty over Dobson. You know what I mean? Like Dobson, over a point per game this year. He's got like 32 primary assists at the moment. He's unbelievable. But Doughty's going to be on this team instead of him, probably.
Drew Doughty is not going to like my roster because
Drew Doughty has 12 goals right now.
He is not going to like my decor on Team Canada. But
He's
here
not
we go.
Like mine either.
Oh, here we go. On forward, I have Hyman, McDavid, Bedard, Point on the wing, McKinnon, and Marner. Marchand with Crosby and Stone as a shutdown line, and then Reinhart, Nugent Hopkins, and Barzal as depth scoring, as, you know, if you can even call that depth scoring. Those are all, you know, first line players on good teams. And then Konechny as the extra. So notably, no Stamkos, no Giroux, no Tavares, no Thomas, no Verhaeghe, Hagel, Horvat, Marchessault, Cirelli, the list goes on. Like, there are so many good players.
Scheifele, Tavares, Hagel. I don't know if you said all those. You said a lot of names, but those were my notable snubs on my team.
Yeah, and then on the back end, I've got Taves and Makar keeping that Colorado first pair together.
It's got to be.
I've got Pelech and Dobson keeping the top pair of the New York Islanders together. Riley and Pietrangelo. And the extra is Dougie Hamilton. So that means no Shea Theodore, no Morrissey, Montour, Ekblad, Dunn, Nurse, Matheson, Bouchard, Letang, Doughty, Chabot, or Chychrun. Uyghur. And then in net, I have Hill, Jari, and Skinner. And boy, like you said, Case, this was the most difficult one to do because there are so many players who are right at that cusp, right at the cut line where, like, they could be a second line player on this team or they could be cut. Like, it's, you know, like there are so many players in the same tier. It's really hard to narrow it down. But we're going to get
Skinner
flamed
on this team. I wanted to put Skinner on this team, but Binnington's good this year. What?
Yeah.
That's why it's going to be the high hand, man. If Skinner's doing well next year, he'll be on this team.
Dude, I wanted to put Logan Thompson, like Hill and Thompson, because
that's a good one.
He's played more games over the last couple of years than Hill, and his numbers are like just as good. And I don't know, I have both in fantasy. That would be cool if my fantasy goalies ended up being, you know, on this team, but it's just so impossible, especially in net, because it'll just depend who is hot, like we've said.
Yeah. Exactly. Like if a guy like Darcy Kemper was playing well for Washington and is playing well this time next year, I mean, he could be a guy that could be thrown into the mix, possibly. Stanley Cup champion a couple years ago, and
it's crazy to think about, though, like all the goalies that we've mentioned so far for Team Canada. So Hill, Jari, Skinner, Binnington, Kemper, like all those guys, not a single one would make Team USA or Team Sweden.
No.
Like it's insane. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which never used to be the case. It was always like, sit back and name the top 5 goalies and they're going to be probably Canadian. There might be an American in there. Well,
think about the 2010 Olympic team. Brodeur, ever heard of him? Luongo, ever heard of him? Marc-Andre Fleury, ever heard of him? Like, those were the 3 best goalies in the world, basically, at that time. And now it's, oh boy.
What was 2016? Like Price?
2014 was Price.
I'm talking the World Cup team.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought you were talking Sochi Olympics. No. Yeah. I mean, Price obviously would have been the starter. Probably Fleury as well was in there. That's my guess.
Oh, yeah. 100%. Yeah. So it's like that. It's so easy to just sit here and name unbelievable Canadian goaltenders. There's actually Crawford, Holtby, and Price, which is fair because you're coming off.
Yeah, Crawford on that dynasty.
From a dynasty, Crawford,
yeah.
Although wasn't the first Chicago Cup, wasn't that like Antti Niemi or something, or someone who won it? Like, I'm pretty sure Crawford wasn't there for all 3, but nevertheless, he was a really good goalie during that time.
Yeah.
Holtby, that's...
let's hear yours.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, Holtby, I mean... How incredible was he for the Capitals in that 2018 Cup run? That's diving stick save on Alex Tuck in the finals.
Mm-hmm.
That was was ridiculous.
Okay, now we're just kind of spitballing like old people, but wasn't that Grubauer who started the playoffs for them?
Yeah,
and then Holtby came in afterwards, which is crazy because he was their guy forever, and then. Washington wasn't expected to win the Cup that year, especially after they had a brutal loss in 2017. And then, man, crazy things happen.
Grubauer was, again, and I know we're rambling on here, but Grubauer was playing better than Holtby down the stretch to finish the season. He started that first round series against Columbus, I believe. And then I think Washington was down 3-1 in that series or something like that. And they made the change, and the rest is history.
And Grubauer has been terrible ever since, unfortunately.
All right, I'll get to my roster now, and this is the most fun, right? I mean, it's Canada. We're all Canadian, obviously. There are so many good players, and Case, that's a really good observation, by the way. All the right-handed shots, which you don't always see. Like, I can remember a Russian World Junior team a couple of years ago. I think they had one right-handed shot on their entire roster. Like, it's crazy. So, all right, my roster looks different, and it comes around to like full circle to the original question that we had that we kind of answered off the top of the pod. So anyway, I'll get into it here. So Hyman, McDavid, and Marner is my first line. Of course, you got the 2 Oilers teammates, and McDavid and Marner, both Toronto area guys, and they know each other well and would have great chemistry. Second line, it's the East Coast line. You've got Marchand, Crosby, and McKinnon all together. And then it gets interesting.
I knew there'd be one person that would do that line.
Then here's where it gets interesting, guys. So on my third line, from left to right, Carter Verhaeghe, Bedard, and Reinhart. So you've got the 2 Florida teammates on either wing. If you wanted to put Reinhart in the middle and Bedard on the right wing, you certainly could do that. But you've got the 2 Florida teammates and the 2, Vancouver guys there in Bedard and Reinhart. So another little connection there, and that's kind of a theme in all of this. And then on the fourth line, Barzal, Point, and Thomas Kyrou as my extra forward. Then on the back end, Taves and Makar, of course, Theodore and Petrangelo, Morrissey and Ekblad as the third pair, and a defenseman that we didn't mention, but he's having a good season, and he's a big body. Colton Parayko, I've got as my extra D on this team. Then the three goaltenders, Hill, Binnington, and Skinner. So you can see there are quite a few St. Louis Blues on this roster, and this is a hypothetical, but I wanted to do this because Doug Armstrong of the St. Louis Blues may be the man running this team. And you guys know I love going with connections and things like that. So that's kind of where I went with this. And honestly, I had the hardest time I had with this roster was on defense. Like, there were so many guys that you can consider. You know, Case, you mentioned Mackenzie Weegar. Like, the guy's got 15 goals this year. He's been excellent in Calgary. Dobson, you mentioned. Evan Bouchard as well. And I mean, there are just so many guys that you could throw in there. But I thought I would go a little off the board, and you know, if I'm in the chair of Doug Armstrong, who, again, it's not official, I don't believe that he'll be the one running this team. He's likely the guy too, and so if that's the case, I thought that this would be the road that I go down. So anyway, what do you guys think?
Well, it might be Doug Armstrong's last time picking the team if that's the case.
Yeah, Drew Doughty will be knocking on his door.
Colton Parayko did not crack my brain once in this process, and
same.
I've got 14 defensemen ahead of him on my screen.
I named a bunch of players. I named a bunch of defensemen who didn't make my team, and this is the list. There's like 10 of them here: Theodore, Morrissey, Montour, Ekblad, Dunn, Nurse, Matheson, Bouchard, Letang, Doughty, Shabbat, and Chikrin. And I think I would take every single one of those players over Parayko, if I'm being completely honest.
Fair enough.
No, that's totally fair.
Yeah, I kind of just want to talk quickly about like some of my lines and how my process came together here.
Yep.
I put Hyman with, I think you would be missing out on an opportunity if you did not play McKinnon and McDavid together. I think that would just be dynamic attacking offensive hockey, and two guys that, you know, get them the puck, they'll drive through, get through 4 or 5 guys, and then put Hyman on the list. Did you see the heat map or on the line? Did you see the heat map of where his goals are scored?
Yes.
Dude, just put him in front of the net, let McDavid and McKinnon get there, and he'll pot it away. It's going to be tons of goals for Hyman. And if the puck goes into the corner, then he'll go and bash people around and get the puck for them. I think it's a perfect line. Put Marchand, Crosby, and Bedard together, because Marchand and Crosby, for the same reasons that you guys mentioned, I think that they're very responsible players. Obviously, probably the two most responsible on this team, and their connection out east, as well as I wanted to put Bedard with them and let him, you know, think more offensively, because those two guys are going to have the defense covered for sure. And come on, Crosby setting up Bedard, wouldn't that be fun? I put Reinhart, Point, and Stone together as like a team that's going to be able to shut guys down as well as score goals. You know, Reinhart has the most created high danger expected goals in the entire league. Only guy close to him is Zach Hyman. Wanted to make sure that Point or Barzal was with Stone, because Stone is probably the slowest guy on this team, and those two guys are two of the fastest guys on the team. There's like the speed burst metrics that they're doing on NHL Edge that just make Barzal, Point, McDavid, and McKinnon look so good. They're the 4 fastest guys in the league. So having these guys all on the same team is ridiculous. Yeah, and Stamkos is one of those guys. To keep going back to Corey's question, he's on the team because of who he is, that leadership, his clutchness, all of the above. Maybe there's some guys that are producing more than him that I did not include on my team, but I think Stamkos needs to get a nod on this on the list.
Yeah, and like I did not have Stamkos. I had Konechny as my 13th forward, and if that happened in real life, I think there would be pitchforks coming from Tampa Bay. And like that probably won't happen. I'm just saying, I'm just trying to pick the team that I would pick personally. I think Stamkos would be great to have, but you know, who are you going to put up against the Kachucks? You're going to want someone like maybe Konechny out there, or someone who, you know, is a bit of a grinder, a bit of an asshole. So that's why I had a guy like that as my 13th forward. And Case, going back to your point of how you were structuring your lines, we both had Hyman and McDavid on the top line. You had McKinnon, I had Bedard. I tried to get McKinnon up on that line because I also recognized, like you, that they're two of the fastest players in the league. It would be so dynamic and so fun to watch. They would basically be doing circles while, you know, Hyman stands in front of the net and banks and rebounds. Like, it would be amazing to watch. But then that left me trying to fit Marner together on the second line with Bedard, because I liken Bedard to a guy like Matthews, who is just a shooter. So I would like to see Marner be able to get him the puck. It didn't work, though, because I didn't trust Bedard playing in the center hole when there are so many other better players, more equipped with more experience to play center. And then you're not going to play Bedard on the left side when he's center right. It just didn't make sense to me. And so that's why I settled with Bedard on the top line. I also think that would be super fun. Like, the best player now in the league, Connor McDavid, passing to the best future player in the league, maybe Connor Bedard.
Yeah, I just wanted to take all question of Bedard's defensive abilities out of his mind by putting him with Crosby and Marchand, you know? Like,
that's true.
Hey, don't worry about it, man. Go shoot the puck and do what you do.
That's true. Or you could do all the first overall phenoms on one line, you know, Crosby and McDavid and Bedard. But I guess that's leaving out some other first overall phenoms.
I like that. And I saw a lot of lists where Crosby was on the left wing. And I think you have to be insane if you're playing Crosby on the wing, in my opinion.
Imagine McDavid on the wing, though. He would get 10 breakaways a game.
Yeah, that'd be nice. But I'm just saying, like, Crosby in the area around the net in your own zone and below the goal line, you want him there. You don't want that guy on the hash mark waiting for a rim. Like,
true.
Yeah, exactly. No, good rosters from the both of you. I definitely role played this one a little bit. You know, trying to think like Doug Armstrong a little bit, if he in fact is the GM of this team. And again, it circles back to the original question that we had off the top, you know, just the factors that come into play when putting these rosters together. And so decided to go with the, you know, who is the general manager and which team are they from, and all of that. And I want to mention too, I didn't have Mark Stone on this roster. I just he's a bit of a wild card for me because of his health, and we know that he's hurt right now. He's going to be out for a significant amount of time. Probably won't be back until the playoffs for Vegas, and so I just wonder what his health is going to be this time next year, because I think it's safe to say that for Mark Stone now at this point in his career, with his injury history and everything, he's no longer an 82 game player in the regular season, and that is no shot against Mark Stone, by the way.
We have to remember that this tournament is in February and not April. So Mark Stone will be injured because it's during the regular season and not during the playoffs. So he will be resting on LTIR.
Yeah, but just to go back to Harper's roster and kind of the Armstrong picks here, you had me in the first half with Robert Thomas and Kyrou. Like, I wouldn't be shocked. Like, I have Thomas as my extra forward, and Kyrou, you know, if he pops off next year as a 40-goal guy, then I wouldn't be surprised if he's getting the nod. The Colton Parayko one, like, there's just, like, I'm sitting here hating myself because I didn't include Dougie Hamilton, and you're throwing Parayko out here instead of Hamilton or any of these guys. I was like, wow.
Also, too, what about the Conn Smythe winner? Not on any of our rosters.
He
Marcia,
crossed my mind for
yeah.
sure. The clutchness, is enough of a reason. I think I saw
It's a factor.
Sportsnet or the Hockey Writers, one of them. I was looking up a bunch of different mocks, and they had him playing with like Crosby and Marchand. I was like, okay, that'd be a pretty good line.
I think that was Justin Bourne from Sportsnet. He does the Real Kipper and Bourne show. I was looking at that same roster earlier, but yeah, like clutchness is a factor. However dumb that sounds, it's a factor. And this guy was electric in the playoffs for Vegas on route to the Stanley Cup. So just a consideration.
Man, you could make a case for quite a few Vegas Golden Knights on this roster. Like if there were guys banged up or, whatever, I mean, Chandler Stevenson, he's a great player as well. Just throwing that in there. And, I was talking to my brother earlier, and how like for the World Junior A Challenge, they do like, Canada East and Canada West or whatever. Like there are two separate Canada teams. Like I would love to see like a Canada US kind of tournament, just the two of them, where like there are 4 teams, like each country makes 2 teams each, and they could do it, and they would be good teams.
Yeah, it would work. I thought you were going to say I'd like to see 2 Canadian teams, or maybe a second Canada US team. I was like, maybe like North America. That's where I thought you were going with that. I'm like,
no.
I think they did that,
and it was awesome, and they haven't done it since.
Call it Canada A and Canada B, and then the same for the US. I don't know, something like that would be cool. But yeah, I was going with that. But yes, we down the road here, we do need another like team North America, like the 23 and unders who are coming up, and yeah, we do need that again. That's for sure.
I'm with you, but let's first get a team Czechia, Slovakia, Switzerland.
Exactly.
True. Well,
Russia.
Yeah, athletes from a country in Eastern
Hockey
Europe.
Athletes of Northeast part of the world.
Yeah, I have a solution though. Why? And this has nothing to do with the Frozen Four, because I feel like we're in Frozen Four. What's it called? Face Off. 4 nations face off.
4 nations face off. Yeah,
and there are 4 of them, and they play on a frozen ice surface. Anyway, this has nothing to do with that. Instead of the All-Star game, why don't we bring back North America versus World All-Stars? I think that would be cool. It would get all players involved, no matter what country they belong to. And then we don't have to do these, gimmicky tournaments. I am looking forward to it. But then we don't have to do these gimmicky tournaments that leaves off some of the best players on the planet. So that's my potential solution going forward, even though it'll never happen.
I hear you. I just think that World Cup in 2016 was perfect.
Agree.
It was
awesome.
It was awesome. Absolutely.